since working with the PA Life and the PA network in general, I didn't even know such a thing existed. And then I've got to know many of you over the last months, and I've worked with PAs. I've had an executive assistant for many years, and I was blown away by the community and the fact that you guys connect from all around the world just to support each other and connect and be a community. I didn't know that such a thing existed. So it's nice that you all come together for things like this, hosted by PA Life. And yeah, I'm really grateful to be speaking to you today. So this webinar, Managing Your Mindset in a Time of Fear and Uncertainty. Do you know, when this whole world situation got really, really serious in all of our consciousness, do you know what my client said to me? I was sitting in one of my regular group coaching lessons, and they said, I'm so grateful to have this information right now more than ever before. And I was like, completely, you know, the world needs this information. I believe all of the time to live the most powerful, abundant life that you can. But now more than ever before is this information needed. And at that moment, I made a decision to do 3 things, and I've done 3 things. So the first one was I finally stopped procrastinating, and after months of wanting to do it, I built a Facebook page. Doesn't sound like a big deal, but I did it, and I focused on doing that, and I finally got that up and running. It's called Be the Change. The second thing I did was I normally run a 6-month coaching program, and I built an intensive tailored version of that. And then the third thing I did was build this webinar. So on the first one, the Facebook group, which is called Be the Change, if you're in that group, I'm really delighted you are. You'll see it's a fantastic community of people, and it seems to have landed for people perfectly at this time. And I'm being blown away by people commenting that my posts and videos have actually helped them through some very dark days. So if you're not in that Facebook group, join it. Please send me a friend request, join the Facebook group. And it's not just me, it's grown, and there's a bunch of great people sharing every day and keeping each other in high spirits, motivated and inspired. So that's the first one. The second one, as I said, I normally deliver a 6-month coaching program. That's what I take my clients through. And I was in the corporate world for a long time, and I know exactly what it's like to be on the hamster wheel. I used to have a to-do list that was anything outside of work that just never got done. I couldn't even find time to take my car for a service. Never mind think about, you know, developing my mindset. So I figured there's a lot of my ex-colleagues who may be on furlough, you know, businesses have slowed down. The world has certainly slowed down for most people, not everybody. So I wanted to answer that opportunity for them, you know, by bringing them a shorter version and a more condensed, tailored version of what I now do. So I'm doing that. I'm taking people through a different coaching program that is going to help them emerge strongly through all of this. And then this webinar. So I built this webinar, and I'm delivering it to teams and groups, as many as I can throughout this period. So that's what I'm bringing to you today. And you know what? I mean, this is real, isn't it? It is a really challenging time. And I don't know how you're feeling, but from listening to some of the people who contact me through my channels, I know that some people have had some real lows. It might be ups and downs for you like it is for most people, but whatever it is, I completely get it. I understand it. And we have to kind of start from a point of view of that's normal, isn't it? We're going to feel emotional at times and scared at times about this situation. And today's about me trying to do 2 things for you. The first one is just, how are you going to feel better? Help you feel better now and in the moments to come, and in the days to come, and in the weeks to come. Because life is nothing but the emotions we're feeling on a day-to-day basis. So if I can even just help you today, then it's been worthwhile, hasn't it? The second thing I want to do through this session is inspire you to use this time for you. And I don't mean go and learn to play a guitar or learn a foreign language or run a marathon or write a best-selling novel. I mean, use this time. Even if your hamster wheel hasn't personally stopped, the world has definitely stopped. It's kind of stopped spinning, and it'll restart, and it'll restart very differently. I don't think the pieces are going to land the same way. You know, things have changed for many things will have changed forever. And I want you to be in a position where you can prime your mind for success. So if I can, in this next hour, just give you some inspiration that you can take care of yourself through this process, but you can think about how you want to emerge, because change creates nothing but opportunity. If you can see change as opportunity, look at any kind of change you've been through in the past. There are always massive opportunities for those who've opened their eyes and look for it. So this is about you feeling like that, thinking like that, and being inspired to see opportunity. And whatever that means for you, but prime your mind for success, and unleash that power. And I want to demonstrate that actually the only difference, if you look at people who you think are enjoying life on their terms, maybe it's more abundantly, more successful, more fulfillment. The only difference between the people we think can do all those things, if we don't think we can, is the way they use their mind, the settings in their mind. Now, hyphenate that word, mindset. So all of us have settings in our mind, habitual ways of thinking. So settings about who we are. We call it our conditioned way of thinking. And if you learn that actually these settings can be changed, upgraded, and adapted for the times that we're in, and adapted for you of the future, that's where the power of you and creating the life that you want to create. So if you know me, then you'll know this story, but this is me, I'm Lorna. I've got shorter hair than the photograph. So I've been 20 years in the corporate world, and 10 of those were in senior leadership positions. And the last 6 of those were with American Express Global Business Travel, where I was Vice President of Transformation. And the last 2 years of that role, well, I went from a place of feeling emotionally and physically burnt out, stress and anxiety on an emotional level, keeping me, I guess, flat and numb, and then on a physical level, creating pain and tension. But with this material, I went from that place to actually the last 2 years of my corporate career were the highest peak I'd ever experienced. I led the global integration of 2 global companies. I felt calm, confident. I loved every minute. The team loved it. We achieved amazing results, all through this material that I'm now sharing with you, some of which. And then I got clear on my next chapter, because when I discovered this information, I thought to myself, you know what? The only difference between kind of how I felt 2 years ago to how I led that last project while I was a VP at Amex was how I was controlling my mind, how I was directing my thinking. And that access to that information changed everything for me. And I figure we should all have this information. When you learn how to direct your mental muscles, we're all born with the same mental muscles. The life and results you want are there for you. So that's what I now do. So I do things like this. I take clients through a coaching program. I do live events when we're allowed out. And I really care about this, you know, and it kind of, everything's been brought into sharp focus for me, especially at this time, because yes, it's about success and results, but it's ultimately about how you feel every single day. And that's what I care about, because that's the quality of your life. So the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So while you ponder that quote, which I love, think about that quote. What's going on right now is a big deal, isn't it? The Queen in her address to the UK said there's been nothing like it since World War II. It's what's known as a black swan event. That's the term used that we've adopted to describe something that's kind of, we almost believe it's not true until it's true, kind of thing. So it's a big deal. It's unprecedented, and I don't think we can kind of express just how unprecedented it is. I mean, the rule book changed overnight, didn't it? All of a sudden, we're asked to work from home. Now, that wasn't a big deal for me. It won't be a big deal for many of you, but for some people, that's unheard of. For some industries, that's unheard of. Overnight, work from home. Overnight, the schools are closed. Overnight, lockdown. These things that we've had to deal with in quick succession. As human beings, we do adapt, don't we? I mean, if you think about when Boris Johnson sat down to address the UK and he said, kind of announced the schools would close, even though I knew that was coming, I kind of had an out of body experience, like looking down, is this real? It was like a film where this stuff doesn't happen. And we're in a world where the most important roles on this planet are not executives and presidents of companies and CEOs. It's the frontline people. It's people collecting our rubbish, keeping our shops open, our doctors and nurses. They have the most important roles in the planet. Overnight, their roles became the most important. And we didn't get a manual. It's a bit like if you're a parent and you come home with your first baby from the hospital and you haven't got a clue and you can't put a nappy on and it's falling off, and bath time is just the most stressful thing you've ever done. But within 48 hours, you adapt, and it's like you've been a parent all your life. You're like super nanny. So there's no manual, but I'm really impressed. I don't know if you feel this way, but we adapt quickly as human beings. We adapt, and it's amazing how things become the norm very, very quickly. But even though that's still the case, that is the case, if you're anything like me and the people I talk to regularly and my clients, you're still dealing with emotions, fears, anxieties, worries, and there's ups and downs for everybody. And I want to help you through this session take control of your thinking, because if you can do nothing else, all of a sudden, things that we took for granted that we could control, I can go for a walk whenever I want, I can get in my car and drive where I want, I can go to the shops, I can jump on an aeroplane if I choose and fly around the world. Overnight, that was taken away. So it can feel like we've lost control, and that can feel unsettling. But what we can control is our thinking. We can control what we choose to focus on. And that's what we're going to get into, because when you choose what to focus on, you're in control of everything. And you can focus, if you want, on being the type of person who feels good, finds opportunities, because it's not fear itself that creates the fear. It's not the thing itself that creates the fear. It's the meaning we attach to the thing that creates the fear. So what can we control? We can choose what we focus on. We can choose the meaning we attach. In any situation in the world, you'll put two people looking at a situation. One will see all the good, one will see all the bad. So we know it's a choice because there's always a different point of view. So it is about choosing our thinking. We can choose what we focus on. We can choose the meaning we give it, and we can choose what we do. So this quote was written years ago, and it's not about knowledge. This quote is about getting good at knowing when the old ideas that are part of the inner workings of your own mind are no longer serving you, no longer beneficial. And if you are somebody who can understand what those settings of your mind are and start to unlearn them and replace them with new ideas, new concepts about yourself and your place in the world, your capabilities, if you can relearn new information and adapt to change, then you'll be successful. It's not knowledge. The internet's full of knowledge, isn't it? It's not about more knowledge. You can Google something, you can get all the knowledge you need. This is about the settings of your mind, your conditioned ideas. You'll notice your belief system about you. What do you think your potential is? if you can get in there and change that and say, actually, if I thought my potential was, this level of career or this type of relationship, I'm going to change that level. I'm going to change that idea, and I'm going to override it with a new one. And this applies in the world more than ever right now. So this is where we get you to get interactive a little bit. You're going to get your pen and paper ready, but we're just going to start by checking in with ourselves. So we get so wrapped up in our own heads, all of the thoughts. We get so wrapped up in our own heads that we miss out on what's available to us right now, in this moment. We're on a beautiful webinar with 80, 90 people around the world, all sharing experience right now, in this moment. So just stop everything for a minute. Close your eyes if you want. Just notice how you're feeling. Notice your breath moving in and out. Feel your skin, feel the air touching your skin. Notice the parts of your body that are touching various surfaces. Feel your eyes seeing, your ears hearing. Your heart beating. Can you even tune into that little buzzing, tingling of energy in the silence? Now that's presence, isn't it? You can get that moment anytime. And you can go to that place. And I've started in the last year to really try and develop the habit of kind of taking on what I'm doing. So whether I'm making my morning coffee, I've made it a habit to put the pod in, and as it's brewing, I smell it. I love the smell, and I just think, smell the coffee. Just do those things, make you feel good momentarily, but the moments add up. Now kind of we're a bit relaxed. If you can, open your eyes, get your pen and paper, and just start to answer some questions for yourself and make some notes. So more generally, how are you feeling? What are your dominant thoughts over the last days, weeks and months? What have you been thinking about most? What are the types of thoughts that have been there more present than any others? And how is the body feeling then in relation to that? And how are you feeling about your future? Now, I'm sure there's a big mix of answers as you write down the answers to those questions, and be honest with yourself, because however you're feeling is absolutely fine. What I want you to do is start to develop the habit of tuning in. Just tune in regularly and check in with yourself, because when you check in and you do a little gauge as to what your thinking is and how you're feeling, you can then start to develop the habit of flipping that over. So if you are feeling slightly worried to majorly worried, anxious, fearful, impatient, frustrated, I'm sure there's all sorts of words. If you are on that side of the spectrum, the negative side, it's absolutely fine. And through this session, I'm going to give you tools that you can use to start to flip. Whenever you feel that happening, I have a coin which kind of says respond and you're in control, react and you lose control. And it's smooth on one side and rough on the other. And that's a way I kind of can check myself. And I kind of say, flip the coin and find the slightly better thought. Now, honestly, if you ask me how I'm feeling, I'm actually feeling really good. I'm feeling inspired about the community, about all of the great things this is demonstrating about the human race, about who we actually are as human beings. And I'm feeling really inspired about my goals, about what I'm focusing on to bring value to other people. Do I live there 100% of the time? No, but I'm there most of the time. And that's a habit I've developed. And when you do that, you get better and better and better at it. So I'm going to help you develop a mental habit to do the same thing. And if you're feeling anxious or worried, you might not be able to go to joyful and abundant, but you might be able to find a slightly better thought. And I'm going to show you through this session the relationship between the way you think and the way you feel and actually your results in life. So we're talking a lot about mental habits, and there's a visual I want to talk you through. So bear with me and stick with me. Stick with me for the next 10 minutes while I talk you through this, because it is powerful and it'll help you really digest the things that I'm going to talk you through. It'll help connect the dots. When I was shown this, it absolutely clicked a lot of things into place for me. And you may have seen this already. You can never go over it too many times. So let this represent the mind. Now, the mind operates largely on two levels. So there's the conscious mind, and then there's the subconscious mind. Now, the conscious part of your mind, that's what separates us from all of the other animals. And that's our thinking mind. That's all of the knowledge we've acquired, all the books we've ever read. It's our educated mind. And it's our intellect. And the conscious mind is super powerful. It has the ability to choose. It has the ability to think, and it can accept or reject an idea. We forget we've got this capability, but the conscious mind can choose. It can choose to think anything it wants, and it can accept or reject an idea that is presented to us. Now, the subconscious mind, that's the emotional mind. And it doesn't have that capability. It can only accept, it cannot reject. So whatever is presented to the subconscious mind over and over again with emotion is accepted as real, whether it is or not. So the subconscious mind can't determine what's real and what's imagined. And this gets programmed pretty much in our early life, so that the things we're exposed to over and over and over again, either the things people say to us or the environment we're brought up in, all of that goes in, and the subconscious mind is wide open. Think of like a little baby and a toddler. They just absorb everything, and they develop, and then our conscious thinking power develops later on. So they operate very differently. And then on the conscious level, the conscious level is what we know. So as I said, that's our intellect. That's what we know. The subconscious mind is in control of what we do. So take that in for a minute. About 96 to 98% of everything we do, all of our actions, all of our behavior, we're not really given conscious choice to. It's going on beneath the surface in our subconscious mind. It's automatic. So if you think about the subconscious mind being in control of what we do, and the conscious mind is in control of what we know, let me demonstrate that, right? Frequently, we know how to do many things, but we frequently don't do them. So think of getting up to speak on a stage in front of 2,000 people. We all know how to do that. We could walk to the stage, we know how to step on a stage, we know how to pick up a microphone, and we know how to speak. Would we all choose to do that? Would our nervous system go into breakdown at the idea that we had to go and do that? Probably. It's not what we know. It's the emotional part of the mind that's in control. Think of it like going on a diet, wanting to lose weight. We know intellectually what we need to do if we want to lose weight, eat a bit less, exercise a bit more, but we frequently don't do the things we know how to do. And that's because it's the subconscious mind that's in control. It's not the thing that we're consciously deciding to do, even though we think it is. So to demonstrate this even further, if you know Sarah Blakely, yeah, she's the billionaire who invented Spanx. you know, the tight underwear that you can't get into, but it hides all your lumps and bumps. And she said she listened to Wayne Dyer, one of the mind personal development gurus. She listened to Wayne Dyer as a teenager over and over again. And she learned from him how to think. She learned that knowing how to direct her mind, she used her imagination, she used her mind to create the goal, to create Spanx as a business. And she learned to shut off the outside world. So she knew very early on that it was how she thought that was going to determine her results in life. It wasn't more and more and more knowledge. And the same thing happened to me. I had a degree and I wanted a career in some kind of management or leadership. And I was 25 and I was a team leader in a call center. And I had a good attitude, good results, but I kept getting passed over for promotion after promotion after promotion. I had all the experience. I knew the industry inside out. And then I got access to Tony Robbins. So Wayne Dyer for Sarah Blakely, Tony Robbins for me, and listened to that on repeat. And he taught me the same thing, that it's how you think, it's how you use the settings of your mind that determine your results in your life, not your conscious mind. And honestly, within a year of listening to that, I got a big promotion. I was a director of a global team in a global organization. And my corporate career has just got better and better and better ever since that point. And it's because I learned how to control my mind, how to focus, how to choose what to think about, and how to create. So I learned to create goals from the inside, not looking all around me as to what's going on and then reacting. So stay with me as we build on this idea. So the conscious mind is hooked up to the outside world. We need to be, right? It's hooked up via our senses, our ability to see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. So we then take information in. So let's say right now we're taking in information via the news, and it's telling us that things are a certain way in the world. And although we can choose, although as we said, the conscious mind could choose to accept or reject the ideas that the news are passing on to us, usually that just goes straight in, and we kind of internalize whatever's going on outside, we take it in. And we kind of then think based on what we can see, hear, smell, taste, and touch, as opposed to thinking based on what we know we can create inside. So when we do that and we internalize that, the subconscious mind, remember, is the emotional mind. That creates the feeling in the body. And as human beings, we typically behave based on how we feel as opposed to how we think. That creates then the action. So it's how we behave, which then creates the results in our life. So when we think about then, if there's something that's obviously bad in the world, we have here the same diagram with a negative and a positive sign either side. Then remember that the conscious mind can choose. So we can ask ourselves then, what's the best thing to choose? Knowing that whatever I put into my conscious mind and impress into my subconscious is going to create the way I feel. It's going to create the behavior. It's going to create what I actually do or don't do. If you've got a choice in that, this could inspire you to focus on the positive, find the positive. Now that takes effort at first, because if we've got a mindset that focuses and finds the negative, and most of us do, because our million-year-old brain is trained to look for risk, right? To train so that we can come out of caves and watch out for tigers going to kill us. So we're kind of habitually programmed way back to do that. It's a risk avoidance. But if you can get good at being more deliberate about the ideas you're going to internalize, not only that, the subconscious mind can't tell what's real or what's imagined. So you can decide to imagine a scenario that is absolutely wonderful, fulfilling, it's your goals fulfilled. And you can impress that into your subconscious mind and feel the feelings of that. Or you can use your imagination against yourself. Like if you've got a teenage son and they go out for their first car ride and then they're 2 hours late back. So your mind Your conscious thinking mind goes to work using your imagination to think about all of the worries and fears and conjure up all of the ideas. And you know what? You know that that's not real at that point, but you fear the worst. So you're emotionally involved with an idea that's scary. You're pressing that down into the subconscious mind. We know that it creates a physical feeling in the body, a physical response, and that's how it creates the anxiety and the stress. But we've done it, but then the teenage son comes home and everything's fine. He had a flat tire. We still felt that feeling as if it was real. So if we can do it in that way against ourselves, you've got to accept that it's an exciting idea, that you can do that in your favor. You can choose to do that in your favor. You can choose to use your conscious imagination to think about all of the things you want as opposed to all of the things you don't want. Now, I know that that's a lot of information that I've just downloaded on you. Maybe for the first time you're hearing it. When you go over this a number of times, you'll really start to internalize it. And I think if there's one thing to kind of pull from that, it's the link between the fact that two things. You can control the thoughts you get emotionally involved with, and you can choose better thoughts. And remembering that whatever you impress with emotion and what you imagine is real, the body's going to feel that, whether it's real or not. And just to demonstrate that even further, can we control our thinking? So you may know Viktor Frankl. He's an author now. He's into all sorts of development in psychology, and you can read about him. But I think he was an attorney, and he was in the concentration camps in the Second World War. And he said no matter what physical, mental, emotional abuse he was subjected to, he learned that what could never be taken away from him was to choose what he focused his thoughts on, was to choose his own attitude, regardless of what was happening. Nobody could ever take that away from him. And I love that. I love that idea. And so if somebody in that situation, in a concentration camp, with every single thing he thought was freedom taken away, can still demonstrate that you can choose your thinking. So powerful. So let's get you thinking again then, based on some of that we've talked about. And I want to talk to you about the fact that at this point in time, we could be focused on anything we want. Based on what I've just said, you've got to accept that we can focus on anything we want. And we can focus on the fact that this is a real scary situation. We can focus on the fact that the economy is going to struggle, that we might go into depression, that we can't see the end to this, that and all of that side. We can absolutely choose that. And I'm not saying we ignore reality. I'm never saying that. Acknowledge reality, be aware, but we don't have to live there. We don't have to spend time there. You can choose to spend time thinking about what you want. So things you can do right now to help you at this point, but more importantly, more broadly for your life in general. But I think it helps to think about goals. So you can think about, what is a goal just for today? We're all locked down with limited options about what we can choose to do. But I find that kind of small things to focus on just help us. And then you could think even more broadly, a goal for this time period. The negativity is always there. So we can get caught in that fog of negativity, or we can focus on something that looks and feels better. And when I talk to you about checking in with yourself, and if you're feeling anxious or worried, find a thought that feels better. If you've got a goal you're focusing on, a goal for the day or a goal for how you want to be in the future, and you can create powerful mental images using your imagination about how you already in possession with your goal and how that's going to feel, you can flip then. You can say, look, I'm feeling pretty bad, but I can just find a slightly better thought by focusing my attention on something I want. Because when we're focusing on fear, we get paralyzed, don't we? And we're not really moving forward. People who are focused on what they want, they move forward with action. and they don't stand still. And that's what I want for you. So focusing on an idea of what you want in this situation, but at any point, it does three key things. Gives you something positive to focus on, as I've said, shift you immediately, creates a positive feeling. So I use the example of, you've got a teenage son and you use your imagination to feel anxious, fearful, and probably physically sick. If you accept that you can do that, then you can accept that you can create a positive feeling by focusing on something good. And remember, the subconscious mind can't tell what's real or imagined vividly. The third thing we get from focusing on an idea of something we do want is it moves you into action. So we don't have that paralysis of fear. We can shut down. You know, when you're fearful or you're anxious or stressed and you want to go and hide under the covers, that's what it is, isn't it? We shut down and we're paralyzed. But for people who can focus on the good, focus on what they want, they move forward. They don't stand still. So right now then, a little exercise for you again, just to stimulate yourself and your inspiration as we go through this. If you could push the outside world away, you know, there are always people finding great things in terrible times. The Great Depression created billionaires. There's always opportunity. And you're not going to find it if you're not set up to look for it. We tend to find what we go looking for. So push the outside world. That picture represents a chaotic street that God doesn't exist at this moment in time, right? And just ask yourself, what would I love? And it might be something you'd love to have, something, a person you'd like to be, who you want to be, what you want to contribute. Just ask yourself, what would I love? Nothing to do with the outside world. This is to do with that use of your imagination in the conscious mind. So let's take this a step further using your imagination. And Einstein was famous for his amazing and effective use of his imagination, because to create something you have to use your imagination. Imagination is everything. It's the preview for what's to come. So continue what you started when I said, what do you want? What would you love? Take your mind to a place where something you really want has already happened. If you can do this now, if not, take it away and do it again. But try now, take your mind to a place where something you really want is already here. Now, it'll be different for everybody, but it's visualizing something that would feel really good for you. It could be an amazing performance review. It could be a big promotion. It could be a relationship, the trip of your dreams, the house of your dreams. Even just imagining doubling your income. So think of the figure that you earn right now and double it. Now, if you can stay in that place when you're vividly imagining you in possession of the things that you would really love, you start to feel it. You start to feel the connection with it. So again, it's doing a couple of things. It's helping you feel good, but it's not just to help you feel good. What then happens is you send a clear message, a clear intention that this is something you want. And the more you can take your mind to that place, the more you're going to move in the direction of it. And the more you're going to attract the resources and circumstances that are necessary for you to have that thing. So after this session, do this. Take your mind to a place regularly where there's something you really want. I carry around, it's not here. I say I carry it around this. Yes, it is. A goal card as well. My clients get a goal card, and it's not just because we write down what we're focusing on. It's kind of a mental trigger. So it's physical, and it's what this does is the minute I touch it, I've got a set of images in my mind that it cultivates, and I can immediately go to that place because I've been there so many times, and I'm moving towards it. I move towards it more quickly, and I love going to that mind place as well because I feel amazing when I'm in that place. So we've got about 3 or 4 slides left just to give you some pointers as to kind of, the talking part of this webinar. And as I said, if you want to pop questions in the chat, comments, then I'll try and finish this in about 5 minutes, and then we can I can answer any questions or make any comments that in response to things you've maybe been sharing with each other in the chat. So when you do that exercise that I suggested, and you might have been already thinking these things as I've been talking, something happens. It happens to us all. And we have thoughts that might look something like this. I can't think about goals at this time. This isn't the time to think about what I want. I should be satisfied with where I am. Who am I to think I can have something different, more, extra? I bet if I said double your salary, you probably thought, I don't want to be greedy. I don't need that much. I should avoid risk. And now we're told the economy's bad, and that's coming from news. That's the reality we're getting that message from. So at this time and in any other time, there's always going to be challenging times, always. This, granted, is unprecedented, but the bigger the unprecedented time, the more significant the challenge. If something is terribly, terribly bad, the law of opposites says there's got to be something amazing as well, because there's an opposite to that. So there's always, these limiting beliefs are there all of the time. And some of them they all live in those settings inside of your own mind. And you'll share some with other people, but a lot of them will be unique to you based on all of the ideas that were put into the subconscious part of your mind when you were a child, and what you've internalized ever since. And that subconscious part of your mind is the part we need to focus on. That's the part of your mind that will stop you from reaching any goal that you set. Now, the iceberg is a way of thinking about this, right? So remember the little head, the figure of the mind. This top part, the bit above the surface of the water of the iceberg, that's your conscious mind. And the bottom part, the bigger part of the iceberg, in control, is the subconscious mind. So it's the bit you don't see. So day to day, we think it's this bit at the top. We think it's what we're thinking about that's controlling what we do and the results we get and how we feel. But it's the bit we can't see. It's the subconscious programming. It's the subconscious thoughts. And they are responsible for 96 to 98% of everything we do. And it's it's dictating also how you're thinking and feeling about the current situation. What I love and worship about this information is it's hidden, it's beneath the surface. But when we start to uncover it and we learn what's in there, there'll be lots of beliefs that are powerful and we want to keep. We're not saying all of our belief systems are bad, but we can target the ones that are going to stand in the way of us getting our goal. So for example, when I made a switch from being a vice president in a big corporation with everything that went with that, the status, the money, the travel, I identified with that person. That's who I saw myself as. And then to do something completely different like this required a very serious shift in the way I saw myself. Some of the beliefs about what was important that I was holding on to, I had to change. And if I never did, if I never went and changed some of those ideas, some of those settings of my mind, I would still be in that corporate role today. Because my subconscious mind, the way I felt when I thought about doing something else, I would have faced fear, I would have faced worry, I would have wanted to run away from something that didn't feel like me. But I knew the process for doing it. And that's why I'm so passionate in the information, because if you just look at a corporate world, there's corporate hierarchy, and we tend to kind of get fixated that is so real to us, and that somebody who's 3 or 4 levels above me, I could never be them. Why? There is nothing different in any of us other than the way we're directing our mind. You know, people are not just, usually these really successful people, they're probably unconsciously using their mind. They've not really sat, unless they're access to information like this or Sarah Blakely with Wayne Dyer, usually it's unconscious. They've just unconsciously got good of directing their thinking. And this just demonstrates for you all a bit more data really about how you're programmed. And it happens mostly between the ages of 0 and 7. So that's where you get everything you see and hear all around you. The environment you're brought up in. Think about the kids now going through this world-changing event, and whatever this is going to turn up for them, this is a reality for them that they are internalizing, that will shape on some level something they do in the future or the way they react to something in the future. And yours will be unique to you. So, you know, if your parents were really risk adverse, then you're likely to be the same. You're likely to have that conditioning as well. It's kind of passed on. You know, my parents really, really were careful with money. And I used to think, well, why doesn't that make me careful with money? I associate money from my past with lack and limitation. So now I abundantly spend, and I don't spend for the sake of it, but I don't shy away from the things I want to have or be or do in relation to money, because that, from my programming, my belief system was money equals kind of you can't have what you want. So I've kind of gone the other way. But sorry for the tangent, but effectively by the time you get to 35, your subconscious programming is pretty much fixed, and that's going to set the trajectory of the rest of your life, unless you embark on a structured system of mindset shift, a mind mastery program like what I'm talking about, to get in there and change the belief system. Because if you want something different from where you're currently set, you will not get there unless you change the belief system, because that will always stand in the way. It will talk you out of it. It will tell you all the logical reasons not to do something. But you can talk yourself into it once you become aware of this stuff. So just wrapping up then, you can use your ability to think. We started this with you can choose your thinking. You can choose using your higher mental faculties, and you can choose your thinking. So this is about you creating from the inside out. Yes, be hooked up to the outside world and understand what's going on, but you don't have to spend all of your time there. You can spend time creating, using your imagination, challenging your habitual thoughts, challenging your programming, which is your paradigm, and something called self-image, which is a big topic that I would get into in a separate session. And ultimately, through this process, you can choose how you think. This is how I started this whole thing. You can choose your thinking. You can choose where you focus, which then dictates how you feel, because what you focus on, what you think about, manifests in the feelings in the body. And you can choose what you do. And ultimately, those three things are your attitude. And when this thing very first started, I put a video on, I think it was one of the first videos I put on the Be the Change Facebook group, about about what I was doing at this point. And I was choosing my attitude. I was choosing what I was focusing on, which was impacting the way I was going to feel. And I was choosing what I did. So if you haven't already, there's a video on this particular slide in the Facebook group. So finally then, and Lisa can send this out if you haven't got a screenshot or some notes, but these are just the kind of summary of what we've talked about. Focus your mind, that's a key thing. Focus on what you can control through this time. This isn't just surviving, this is you thriving, this is you having a time where you're going to spend some time thinking about the power inside your own marvelous mind. Focus on what you want. Check in emotionally regularly and try and do that flip that I mentioned. Think about what you're grateful for. And the word practice is used there because that's where we use the word practice. It means do it regular, do it often. Choose and check your attitude and the language you use. Language is important. You know, if you use a word like devastated, or you use a word like annoyed, they give you two very different meanings. So I try to really watch the language I use. Don't use over-inflammatory language that's going to stimulate an unnecessary feeling. We don't need to engage with negative conversations and negative people. It doesn't serve us. If there's a message there, find it and move on. And then there's some obvious ones, you know, good habits like physical exercise, meditation, which is really, meditation is a little bit like the getting present exercise we did. It's just quieting the mind. It's just spending time trying to shut off the thoughts and the outside world. Sleep and nutrition, all those things. When you think about well-being, it's those four things, isn't it? It's the mind, it's the body, it's sleep for repair and regeneration, and it's nutrition. And I would strongly suggest, if I haven't convinced you already, that you do something to feed your mind. Read a book, join a course, put some habits in place that are going to help you think about how you want to focus every day. Okay, so we have about 4 minutes left. Just as I'll leave this slide up so you can take notes. If you want more support, I've cleared 11 a.m. every day if you want to make an appointment. And you can make an appointment with me to do one of two things. I can just offer you some free advice as to whatever's going on without talking about anything else, just guidance, answer any questions if you might need it. Or you can book an appointment to learn about the coaching programs and evaluate if that's something that you are going to put in place for yourself. Because believe me, the people who make that decision are the people who will help these pieces land for themselves super powerfully. And they'll be the people who learn how to use their mind and can actually create whatever reality you want for yourself: fulfilled, abundant, joyful. And I use those words all the time now, and I didn't used to. So there's my email address and my website. You can do that there. You can just send me a message. This is the Facebook group, Be the Change. Join that. I mean, if you do nothing else, join that, because I think your energy will be really valued there and you can contribute. And then finally, that's my just business page. So let me check then. I can't open the lines, but let me just, with the last few minutes, have a look in the chat, you guys, and see if there's anything I can answer. Let's see. Lots of information here I've seen before, but really great time to reflect again as you've been going through it. I can feel my mindset has shifted. Thank you. Thanks, Alex. Yeah, you make a really good point there. You know, you will find this information presented differently in all different self-help books. You can find information on YouTube, you can find podcasts, it's everywhere. What happens though is it doesn't stick in your life, because the minute you kind of stop thinking about it or stop focusing on it, the minute your mindset, your conditioned way of thinking just takes over again. So thinking about studying something daily, going through a structured system, is how you make a change permanently. But I'm so glad and grateful, Alex, that, you know, it's helped lift your vibration in today's session and help remind you of some of the ideas. Okay, thanks for doing this. Yeah, then no problem. Fantastic. Okay, no, because I don't think there's any questions. Let me see. No questions there. But you know what? Get in touch. Either book an appointment, go on the Facebook group. We can have discussions through that and contribute. Great, thank you. So somebody's asking for the slides. It's going to be challenging to send these out for two reasons. One, they're massive. There's lots of photographs. I'm happy to send a kind of summary in PDF. The other reason is this is a webinar I'm doing for businesses and teams, which I'll need to present. So yeah, contact me directly to let me know what you need, and I'll try and answer it in the best way I can and give you the resource you need. But let me know that. Okay, you guys, I know we're just at 12 o'clock now. So thank you all. I know it's pretty one way, and if you stuck with it, well done. I hope it's give you some food for thought, and even if you put one idea into play in your own life, then it's going to benefit you. Thanks, guys. And thank you, Lisa and PA Life again. Take care. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, Gemma. Thanks, Vicky.